Come in. Hi.
Hello.
Mr. White.
Mr. Rock, nice to meet you.
What's your name?
My name's Tom.
Thomas. Fitzpatrick.
Thomas Fitzpatrick. Yep, I'm here for the refereeing interview today.
Yeah?
Yep.
So, I'm just going to ask you, yeah, I'll have a look through that later, it's just I'm going to have a look, also ask you some interview questions, just about the job itself. So I was going to explain in like, what you want the job, what interests you about the job, just things about the job. So, straight off, I was wondering, why do you want this job?
I'd say there are a few different reasons why I want this job. Firstly, I want to give something back to the footballing community,
Yeah.
which referees do every week by turning up to these games, taking a lot of stick off fans and players, and carrying on with the game.
Yeah.
Which is something difficult to achieve, but at the same time, you want to try, you want to give something back, and you want to complete the job to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'd say I want the job because I've wanted it for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
You know,
So have you always been interested in
yeah, I've always been interested in refereeing. Ever since I started playing football, I noticed that these referees, especially in Sunday League grassroots football,
Yeah.
are giving up their time to come and referee these kids, and it's quite an honourable thing to do, really.
Yeah.
Especially when you've got certain groups of players and coaches who are getting on your back, telling you to do certain things. And yeah, so last of all, I'd say I want the job because I feel that I deserve it, and I'm looking to get this job so I can further my career and more money. They're the two sort of sole things that are the big thing in terms of increasing the quality of my career.
Yeah. Alright. So I was wondering, what do you think are your greatest professional strengths as a referee?
I'd say one of my greatest professional strengths is my discipline.
So why is that? Why?
It's quite an interesting thing in football, discipline, because a lot of referees struggle with it. They tend to let things go a bit.
Yeah.
They take a lot of stick off.
So do you not consider yourself as being so you don't tolerate any?
No, I refuse to tolerate anything like that because it honestly it ruins the game.
Yeah.
I like to establish a firm line between the referee and the players, and I want to make sure that the discipline is perfectly on cue.
Yeah.
Which means that any misbehaviour or any poor challenges, dissent towards the referee just simply won't be tolerated by me.
Yeah.
It can, to be fair, it can work against me occasionally because.
So do you consider that to be your weakness then?
In a way, it can work as a weakness because.
So would you say that is your? If you had to choose one, that would be your main weakness, or is there things about?
No, I'm by no means the perfect referee.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things I need to improve. I'm not very experienced.
Yeah.
Vastly experienced. There are things that I need to work on, but the discipline side of things, it does work, but a lot of the time it can lead to second bookable offences, and that's disappointing because it does ruin the spectacle of the game for people watching in the ground and for people at home.
Yeah.
Because I like to give out these early yellow cards and establish a boundary between myself and the players, and that can mean that they throw challenges in towards the end of the game, which can just lead to second yellow cards, send-ins off, and ruin the game for the people watching.
Yeah. So can you tell me a conflict or a challenge you faced when working and how you dealt with the problem?
Yeah.
Let's give me an example.
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, I refereed a county cup final game.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting game, a bit of a local game between two teams from the city.
Yeah.
And it was a bit feisty, and quite an appalling challenge went in the middle of midfield. So I thought that warrants a red card here. So I pulled my cards out, I gave him the red card. He walked off the pitch, and the next thing you know, you've got a lot of these players jumping on my back, a lot of fans. It was getting a bit out of order, to be honest, throwing things at me, abusing me from the sidelines. So what I did was I took a deep breath, I focused on the job that I had to do, and I got my head down, I carried on with my job, I phased them out of what was happening, and in the end I think I did a very good job of refereeing because I was invited to do the next.
So you feel that you dealt with that well?
Yeah, I think I dealt with it very well. Dealing with pressure is something I feel I'm So,
That's good then.
mm.
So can you tell me another time where you've exercised leadership?
Yeah, I've exercised leadership within throughout my whole life, really. You know, starting off from a young age, joining a couple of different sports teams, playing cricket, playing football, and I was actually the captain of my cricket team for a long period of time. Which wasn't the easiest thing, because you have to lead by example as a captain, as a leader. And like I said, the discipline side of things in my refereeing, that could come across as my leadership as well, because I like to say, do you know what, boys, we can stop messing around, we can carry on with what we need to do, but we can have a bit of banter at the same time, and developing that rapport between yourself, the captain, and the players is something that you need to get right. And I feel I did quite a nice job of doing that whilst I was refereeing.
So what do you consider to be your greatest achievement in just throughout your life in general?
My greatest achievement, I would say, is refereeing these big games, because it's something that I've always wanted to do.
So if you had to work hard to get to where you are then, or?
Yeah, I have had to work hard. You know, I've achieved every level of refereeing. I've refereed a lot of local games, and now I think it's time for me to develop and take a step up to the next level.
So how long have you been refereeing for? Like, when did you get your license?
Well, I actually passed my refereeing course at the age of 14, which is the minimum age you can do it. But since then, I've really cracked on with it, and I've refereed 2-3 games a week, sometimes even 4, you know, refereeing midweek games. Because I feel like that was the best way of doing things, you know, to just get on with it, referee as many games as I can, build up my experience, and then become the best possible ref which I can be.
So can you describe a situation where you have worked in a team to?
Like I said just a minute ago, I've obviously worked in teams during school, college, during the sports teams, but mainly within my profession, refereeing, I have to work in a team. I have my 2 assistants that work with me on a regular basis. They follow me around to each game, and that's quite a nice thing to have. You know, a good, secure, tight-knit group, which works quite well for me.
Okay. So obviously, just briefly looking at your CV, I can see that you've worked in just past refereeing jobs. And I was just wondering how your old bosses and old co-workers, like, what word best describes you? What would they say describes you best?
I'd say what describes me best, what they would describe me as, is someone who is a nice bloke, you know, wants to get along with everyone, wants to work, and is very willing to put the shift in that he needs to do. And I feel that does rub off on the other members of the team as well, who work with me, which is quite nice. You know, I do have my weaknesses, which I can be helped with, but together as a group, we can sort of bind our ideas together and sort of really make it a stronger refereeing panel for the higher levels of English football.
So what different aspects of refereeing, what interests you about a career in being a referee?
I'll tell you what interests me is the fact that I've wanted to do it for such a long period of time.
Is that because you played football yourself?
Yeah, like I suggested earlier, you know, I've played in teams before, and it's quite a nice thing to have. It's being able to play in different teams. And like I mentioned earlier, what really stood out to me was these referees coming and giving up their time. And I want to not repay the favour as such, because, you know, it's a profession and it's a job that needs to be done, and it's something that you get paid for, you know, you have to deal with. But I do feel like having this job really gives me a sense of self-pride and achievement that I've got to this stage, and I can say, you know, that was my dream from a child, and I've made it to that stage now.
That's a good thing then. So, but after you're 16, 17 years old, how old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
So, what do you expect to be doing 5 years from now?
Well, 5 years from now, I'd like to be at the optimum level of refereeing.
Does that mean refereeing just like international or Premier League, lower league? Or?
Well, after this interview, hopefully I should be lucky enough for you to take your time to look at my interview, to look at my CV, and hopefully offer me the job. But should I get that job, I expect I should be refereeing in the sort of Championship, League One standard of football, which is a good standard of football. Don't get me wrong, but it isn't quite the Premier League yet, and that is the optimum of English after that, I hope to move on to the European competition and to get to the international stage. And refereeing an international tournament is a dream of mine that I've always wanted to get to.
Yeah, that's good to know. So have you got any questions you want to ask me at all about the job? Or?
Yeah, there is a couple of different questions which I'd like to ask you. Firstly, I just want to ask, what is it about the job that gets you up in the morning to come to work with your colleagues, and that motivates you to carry on doing what you're doing?
Well, as you said yourself, it's just I've always been in love with the game and just always been a sporty person in general. So I want to actually help others just play the game, learn the game by doing a refereeing just based job. So.
Yeah. And the last question I want to ask you is, what do you think you could do for me to develop my refereeing skills?
We just need experience in general. Like here, I've seen you've got some experience in refereeing, but obviously the more experience you have, just the more wise you get about the game.
Alright, thanks for that. I just want to say thanks for your time, and
Thank you.
I hope to see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks.